Do you want to know the secrets of food styling? Do you want to know how food looks so beautiful on the packages and on the billboards? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to Cookbooks with Virginia. I am so excited because today I have with me guest Denise Vivaldo, one of the most famous food stylists like in the whole entire world.
I know.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Virginia, I look forward to it all day yesterday. I thought I'd get to see my girlfriend, Virginia.
I know. Well, and I talked to Natalie too, and we were sort of talking about the fact that like Zoom, you know, with COVID and everything, Zoom is like this sort of a headache, but at the same time, you still get to see people. So that's a wonderful thing.
I Zoomed all day long on Friday, and I was tired. I was amazed, but it was like 3 different meetings. So of course I was tired. And you know what? I was also uplifted.
Because it is so uplifting. So y'all, Denise has written cookbooks and entertaining books, but one of her, would you say your primary career, you're a trained chef, but your primary career has really been about food styling. Would you say that's accurate?
You know what? I started out, I was a chef. I ran a very successful big catering company. And then I started my own. But Virginia, my clients were all, being that I worked Hollywood, were all in television and movies. Right. So what happened is they pulled me into food styling.
Right.
One of the very first one was Susan Powder, and probably no one's alive that remembers when Susan Powder had a career, but she was on the home show. She had lost weight. She had infomercials. She was huge. Well, I met her at the home show helping with somebody else. And she said, do you do recipes? I said, sure, of course. I'm making this all up as I go along. Right. And the next thing I knew, I was helping her with her cookbooks, getting paid to write recipes, styling some of her books. So I was dragged into it because of my.
Well, what an amazing career. And I have the older copy of this book, but this is like a Bible for people. And then we have, this is the new cover, right? So let me tell everybody about this. So you're going to see this on my Instagram feed. You're going to go there. You're going to like me. And if you like me already, that's great. And if you don't like me yet, you're going to like me now. And you're going to follow me and you're going to follow Denise. It's all right there. Comment, tag a friend, and you can win a copy of the Food Stylist Handbook, which
absolutely
it's an indispensable. And I think that, you say that you were dragged into food styling. So one of the things that I think is so interesting now as like a cook and a cookbook author is that we kind of have to do everything now, right?
Now, it certainly has changed in the last 30 years, Virginia. Now, and I was so happy to trade in my covered wagon for a car. I mean, it was just really But here's what happened. You are correct. I have worked on 50 different cookbooks, 9 of my own, and I didn't style all of my own because that wasn't the way it was done. They hired a food stylist. Publishers used to hire a food stylist and a photographer or an art director, and made a team. Well, and you had this early, I know, in the beginning of your career. Well, blogging was an upheaval.
Yeah.
Blogging was mountain building. Now, people will be, I hated it, changed things. I think it made things, first of all, talk about entrepreneurial spirit. I love bloggers because I can't believe people just sat down all of a sudden and created an entire industry. And that's what they did. And a lot of them, moms at home trying to make a buck. How can you fault anyone for that?
Right. Well, you are such an incredible businesswoman. So this doesn't surprise me that you're a supporter of this.
Well, it made changes in my business, but only for the better is what happened, because I started to look around our workshops. I have taught food styling workshops for 18 years. Mm-hmm. I have been blessed to teach them because food styling for the camera is an American invention. Okay. It goes all the way back to Charlie Chaplin eating the black shoe in the movie The Little Tramp. Seriously, I've done research. Home economists became food stylists in the 50s to sell appliances. Right. So the bottom line is I've been able to teach Virginia in France, Japan, Singapore, Australia, Saudi Arabia, because of my book. Okay. Now,
Right.
because everyone emulates American food. And
Mhm.
of course, our big fast food companies have strongholds in all those countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tentacles are long. So once I got into food styling and I loved it, and then as bloggers popped up and they started coming to our workshops and they had their own cameras, they weren't thinking of photographers, they were teaching
Right.
themselves photography.
Right.
And they were these combinations. And what it really did for me was I thought, okay, editorial is going to go to the bloggers. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I'm going to have to really look at commercial work only. Now, commercial work is the front of Stouffer's lasagna package, is all the, is national television stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and that's where there's more money in it, to be
Right.
perfectly
Right. Right.
honest.
Right.
So I went after corporate accounts after about 2008, as blogging came to a fruition. And I mean, and cookbooks, if you can grab cookbooks and it's a celebrity and they have a huge budget for their art, it's wonderful. Now what's changed, which is, and you leading into it, I'm sorry, my lengthy.
No. 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 I'm fascinated.
Authors are now, it kills me, Virginia, and I know wanting to write that contract and getting that first cookbook, but you find out from young authors, because they send me emails then, and they say, I got a $20,000 advance, and I say, good girl. And then they go, so that's for 100 recipes and I have to do all the photographs. And I say, oh, no, we've hit a snag. And I'll say to them, are you a photographer? No. Do you know how to style? Not really. And it keeps getting worse and worse.
Yes. Yes.
It's like a bog. It's like it's quicksand. When I was a kid, every TV show had quicksand. And I remember thinking, that's how I'm going to die. Little Joe was always in quicksand on Bonanza. But the bottom line is, they get into it and they find out to get some decent artwork, they're going to spend more between groceries, testing, and having to do,
Yeah. Well, not only that, I remember like one of the reasons that I left working with Random House, we could talk for hours about the perils of publishing, right? But one of the reasons that I left Random House and went to Houghton Mifflin, because Random House, first of all, the contract includes, so my advance included the photographer's fee. And so that's kind of crazy because it's 30 grand or whatever. And that I have to pay back to be able to get to royalties. So that was a problem. But the what was really crazy, and this is the second time I've had this conversation this weekend, what was really crazy was the way that they paid it. 25% upon signing, 25% upon turning in the manuscript, 25% 6 months after, and then 25% a year after. So so even if it is a 6-figure advance, which there aren't that many, as you know, it's $25,000 a chunk before the agent over the course of 2 or 3 years, 4 years. It's not viable, right?
It's not, honey, you're carrying, when this used to happen to me, exactly what my husband is an attorney, and he'd say to me, let me get this straight. So you're carrying $40,000 for Viacom, or he'd say, or Sony Pictures, or whatever huge corporation. He'd say, now, how does that work, Denise?
Right.
What you were talking about, Virginia, is making your cash flow almost impossible.
Right. So, but what's happened with the blogging, I think, is so fascinating because you're right. People have become stylists, people have become photographers. Like, everyone's got, you can make a movie with your dang gum iPhone now, right? Like, it's just one of the things, you're in California, Hollywood. Well, my gosh, like the freedom to publish has changed tremendously, right?
Yeah.
It used to only be that you had to have a production team. You had to have a production company to do a show. And you've got a podcast, you're about to start teaching online classes for you don't have to have a production company. You know how to do it. You've got the equipment, you can do it.
That's why I think it's so exciting.
Right.
Now, if you are a cookbook author right there outside listening to us, or if you wanted to, there's cookbook, there's wonderful groups on Facebook for everyone that's in a situation.
Right. Right.
I know that some people allow $5,000 for their photographs. Okay.
Right.
Now, how can you create some nice looking art for that small budget? Of course you can. You have to be very organized.
Yep.
I always say, the first thing I say to them is cut the amount of photographs down. It's just like in printing it. Get 20 or 30 beautiful photographs, put them in the center of the book. Don't disperse them. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Every recipe does not need a photograph.
You think so? I feel like people are so want photographs so much because like it's the Instagram effect.
And that is Instagram's, but only put so many in the book and then take other photographs on your own that you create that are beautiful and make those your Instagram feed. Okay. Because
Right.
people will, or put up your own website. But
Right.
certainly I wouldn't give all of that work to a publisher who is paying you pennies on the dollar. Do you
Right.
see? And again, I'm not bashing publishers. I've had wonderful relationship with
Right.
publishers.
Right.
And I've really enjoyed publishing books. But you know what, Virginia? It's a business.
Yeah. And it has to be a business and it has to be a business for everybody. I mean, I used to think that like publishers thought that authors, all they did was like, drain the mini bars and hotel rooms kind of thing. and authors think that publishers are just like Scrooge McDuck, eating bonbons and swimming in money, neither of which is true, right?
That's right.
Neither
There
of
has
which
to
is
be
true.
a team. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a team.
Yeah.
And but once this is what happened to us as our workshops changed. We had new authors come. And they would show us some of their books and we'd say, one of the things, and I know, Virginia, since you've tested so many recipes for yourself and professionally, you take a picture of the recipe after it's tested. Just it can be right there in your kitchen.
Yep.
You put it, we always print them out and put them with the, or attach them to the recipe. Well, you know what? When you go back to 100, you see that maybe 20 or 25 of those really aren't going to look very good. I don't care who photographs it. Do you know what I mean? They're brown, they're dull. It's a recipe people have seen 100 times. So you can covet and cultivate and really, in my feelings, you want 20 or 30 spectacular photographs in a cookbook, not 70 average photos,
Yes.
And when we get, and of course you were talking about everybody self-publishing, when we now get cookbooks from students or friends or colleagues, and sometimes as I open the pages and I just think to myself, that's not a good photograph. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's your brand.
Right.
Okay. It's your brand. Do you want pictures? I'm not, and now I'm talking about vanity. Why do movie stars and artists and everybody protect their image so much? Because it's part of their brand.
Right.
I think the same thing is true of your food. Let's give the food the best opportunity we can to thrive. And that's why Instagram is so popular, because that food is lit and it's styled and it's, I'm sure most people know this. A lot of the Instagram influencers buy styled photographs and they don't do it all themselves. So once they make a little money, they turn right around. It's just like in the old days with cookbooks. Now they buy their content and their photograph because they want it to be beautiful.
Now, let me ask you, because it seems like one of the things that's on Instagram, I always go back to the fact that I'm a cook.
Yeah.
So when I see, let's just say a cake, right? When I see a cake and it's a finished cake and in the background is the dirty bowl and the flour on the cutting board and all that kind of stuff, the cook in me thinks, how the hell did you not clean your kitchen in the 2 hours it took you to bake that cake? So it feels like there's some of it is just styled.
I love you so much because you and I have had this conversation about when the unfinished paint peeling tables came in. Okay, now Artistically, some of them are beautiful, and I styled stuff on them. They were gorgeous. Now, inside, as a chef, I'm thinking, boy, I hope your baby doesn't crawl up and eat any of that lead-based.
I know it. It's like, it drives me crazy. It's like, I wouldn't have that at a fish camp. I wouldn't have that at a mountain cabin. You're going to get like bacterial ptomaine poisoning or something from eating off of that.
I think you've made your feelings clear. The messy in the background, little baking. Okay, I get it. I get what they're doing artistically. As a professional, would you and I do that? No, because when the cake is ready to be presented, you're bringing out to the dining room with their candles or someplace. That's the idea. Okay.
Right.
Dirty bowl in the background, or you know what I hate, and this sounds so bad, if it's a pretty hand or a cute little child's hand, but you know when there's some horrible, ugly, dirty hand and that's in the picture, and I think, oh no, oh, that's never sexy. Okay, would I sleep with that? Would I sleep with that hand? No. Do I want it in my cake? No. So sometimes I know, honey, but they're reaching. People are looking for something new. Okay.
Yes.
Our culture has changed.
Yeah.
Chefs are no longer a short European man with a mustache and a white jacket. They are now in those leather aprons, and they've got tattoos everywhere. Okay. And I knew that I needed to change my attitude. Was one day I'm out with our dear friend for lunch with Ann Willen.
Uh-huh.
And we went to some hip place in LA, and the chef wants to come out to meet Anne. And he came out and he had tattoos from the chin all the way to everywhere. I think one of them said, I sliced my mother. I'm not sure, Virginia. No, I'm kidding. They were just really a lot of tattoos. And he came out and was so gracious to Anne. And she said, thank you. And when he left, I'm the one that says, wow, that was a lot of tattoos. And Ann Willen says to me, oh, I love the tattoos, Denise. I love the way they move. And I went back to my soup or salad, and I thought, okay, now there's a lesson for you, Miss Denise. Here is Ann Willen, the grande dame.
Like Queen Elizabeth, practically.
Really, who is being open and enjoying life. And I'm the one that's being judgmental. So after that day, of course, Anne teaches me something I feel like every single time I talk to her. But I thought to myself, Denise, you need new eyes. You need to not look at what used to be. You need to look at what is happening and enjoy it.
Right. No, it's true. And you're right. Anne is always a surprise for those of you that aren't familiar. Ann Willen is a grande dame, truly a member of Les Dames Escoffier, and had a school called La Varenne in Burgundy and also in Paris. The list of folks that have trained under her or studied under her is a mile long. There's Amanda Hesser and Mara Stetz and Rick Bayless and. So
it goes on and on and on.
No, it just goes on and on and on. Okay, hey, let's just show this book. So if y'all are watching, look for my Instagram feed, look for the cover of this book, like me, like Denise, and you can win a free copy. Okay, so I want to talk to you about your classes. So tell the audience about these online classes that you have for food styling.
Thank you. Now, Virginia, I need to tell you, people have been saying you should do an online class for like 10 years.
Right.
And we even had a sponsor a few years ago, but at that time I was in negotiations with a network and they were going to do it. So, and then it all went poof and it all went away. Okay. Yep. You know how that one day you're on top and the next day no one will return your phone call. Anyway, with COVID, Cindy and I were not able to we usually teach 3 or 4 weekend workshops in various places. So all of a sudden, exactly what you were saying, with the iPhone 12 that Cindy has, with Zoom that we have now kind of mastered because I do a podcast.
Right.
All of a sudden, Cindy said, we're not going to hire a crew because I'm from the old school. I'm thinking I need a cameraman and this and that, and it's going to cost me so much money. And oh my God, the cost to pass on to the students, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, Cindy has mastered it. They show my hands with one telephone, with one phone. They show my face with the other. We've shot 3 of them.
Wow.
pasta, chicken, and hamburger. The idea, Virginia, is for people to put together the most professional portfolio they can so they can get commercial work. Okay. So that so if you want to work for Jack in the Box, if you want to get a job with a big restaurant chain, if you want your local restaurant to hire you and pay you appropriate, that's who your customers are.
Right. Yeah, because y'all, one of the things that you may not think about is that, when you see an 18-wheeler going down the highway and it's a McDonald's ad and there's this Big Mac on there, someone, a food stylist, made that Big Mac.
That's right.
Someone probably literally did glue on those sesame seeds, right? I mean, like,
I'll tell you something, and it has relaxed. Commercial food styling has relaxed a lot also. But here's the issue. When that semi is going down and the thrill when it's your food, I can't even tell you how much fun or the billboard above Sunset Avenue. Oh my God, it's so exciting. But here's the thing, the camera sees food differently.
Yeah.
That's why, and it needs really good lighting. So when you're gluing a sesame seed on a bun, it's because that space with the camera's eye looks so huge where there wasn't one, that the eye went to that instead of enjoying the whole image.
Right.
A mistake, I think I can describe this as a young woman. When you're a young woman and you get a pimple on your cheek, and you're young and you put a little makeup on, but you go out and you think that's all people are looking at. Okay, you can't see that you're pretty and young, or you don't feel it in yourself. You think that's all people will see. Well, if a camera took a picture of you, the camera, that's what they might see. Okay?
Right.
Because you're stagnant, because the camera's eye is stagnant. So you need to do a few tricks. We don't use half the tricks that we used to, though there's lots of tips, but the reason is that if you really know how to cook and you can make beautiful food, it's easier, okay? That comes down to it. But so that's what the videos are about. And it's the hope of elevating people that have gotten into food styling now or like it.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to be able to get more professional clients, be a professional, be treated like a professional, and get corporate clients, because there's more money there. It's simply simply what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, like I think I have styled all of my books, but I think that only maybe one or two did I have a budget for me, right?
Exactly, honey.
So because I was trying to save, or I paid myself a half rate or something. But
exactly, of course.
Someone's, the major corporate clients, it's so important that their food look good. So talk a little bit about the book too. So the food stylist handbook that you have.
Well, you know what? I wanted to write it like 20 years ago, and every publisher I sent out a proposal, they all said, too small of a market, no one cares. Then blogging showed up, and bloggers started to show up in our workshops, and I went back and I sold it. And they said, my agent sold it. And sure enough, it did well. It was the one you held up.
Yep.
It is a hard copy. There were no books out there on food styling. And so it had sold well. But then, Virginia, what happens is they did not want to reprint it. We sold all 10,000 copies. And then I said, well, I think there's still life in the book. So I bought the design back from them very recently.
Right.
And then I turned around with a new agent, sold it again. Well, in 3 years, we've sold almost 10,000 copies of it. But we updated it and we added a chapter on photography so people can read it. And you know who's really related to the book? Bloggers, chefs, marketing people that have got smaller budgets. So they know that they're going to, honey, and social media has done this. Maybe it does not, it can be a lovely photograph of the hamburger with good natural light, maybe one reflector in the restaurant, and they're not paying a team to come in that day.
Right.
Where I live now, Virginia, and it's just funny, I always say this to people, find beautiful light in your home. Where does the sun come up? You don't want the afternoon light because it turns blue. I have in my house, and when we were buying this house, and it's our right size house. We sold 2 other homes to get here. I take pictures sometimes and post them, and Cindy, who's worked with me for 20 years and helped write the Food Stylist Handbook and everything, says to me, "That's the most beautiful light." I said, "It's my kitchen counter because the light comes up and I have shutters. So I use the shutters in my kitchen like a light filter.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful light. So if I've made something that looks pretty good, now, could it be on a billboard? Well, I don't think so, but I'll tell you something. You see all the iPhone commercials where people are making movies, and you know what? They look great.
No,
So
it is amazing.
it's amazing. But any tricks that you know about lighting or styling are, even with an iPhone, are going to make your image better. You just want to make the image better. That's all you're trying.
Right. So, I know I recently did a project for Art Basel in Miami with a friend. I assisted her styling, and it was
Nice.
because Art Basel wasn't held this year, but they had all these images and they were going to be on billboards, and
Yes.
working with Ellen Silverman. And it really is different when it's huge. I mean, you think about, a 3-inch square versus a 20-foot billboard. Now, but I do have a question for you, because
Yes.
I had a styling gig. I don't do as much professional styling as I used to. I always just say that I'm the hands, like I don't need a brain. You don't need a brain. You just need to be the hands and do what the art director tells you to do. That doesn't always work well for me. But, they were like, "We want it to look like this sandwich." And I said, none of that is real. Like, that tomato was from this and that lettuce was from that, and it's all computerized. So what is your answer to that as a stylist? Because there's so much that can be done digitally.
I know. Luckily, it's very expensive to do everything digitally. So, and this comes back from, again, when I started out, when you were a stylist, if your photographer had to send an image to be retouched, that cost him money, and you couldn't always get the client to pay for it. So digitally, sometimes photographers say to me, "Denise, don't chase that. I'll color that tomato myself in post." Right. And that's lovely, because you can move faster and move on to another image. But honey, we don't have a lot of Frankenstein images, because we just try to make it still as perfect and edible and appetizing as we can, and go from there. But they can certainly, recently I was doing this beautiful champagne shot, and I was chasing seriously with a bamboo skewer, kind of this one stray weird bubble. And the photographer said, "Tell me you're not chasing that bubble." And he said, "Step back." And with his, pen on his computer, his little stylus, he fixed it in 30 seconds. So, but I know it's an interesting concept. Okay. Then to me, it's like multimedia. It's how you look at art. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's a fine line between an ad and then when you switch to art, in my opinion.
Right.
When stylists first started out, I had this fight with one of the kids in our food styling group, and I think she was furious at me. Is a cup of hot chocolate art? I think it's an ad. Now, if it becomes something else and really goes into a different hemisphere, I guess you can call it art, but it's still a cup of hot chocolate. Let's not get carried away with it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I think people take some of it too seriously. My question to all of it is, when I bought a mascara one day at Thrifty, the ad kept saying, "You'll look like Beyonce." And I bought that mascara and I used it. And the next morning I said to Cindy, "Do I look like Beyonce?" She said, "Not one bit." But yet Beyonce was on the package of the mascara, and they told me I was going to look like Beyonce. Do you know what I mean? So there's that fine line between art and ads and manipulation and sales.
Yes. And at the end of the day, though, it really is just about a beautiful image, whether it's art or an ad.
That's right.
It's going to capture the eye. And you've got tons of tricks and techniques in this book to help people become better professional food stylists. And then, but also, I know that there's so much in this older version that people like, food bloggers can use and influencers can use. I mean, that is in and of itself has become a business, being an Instagram influencer.
honey, we've had those people come to our classes. We've had influencers, 1 or 2 of them every once in a while, halfway through a demo of one of the foods, they let out this big gasp, like, it took me 10 hours and my chicken never looked that good. And of course, we've styled a chicken in like 6 minutes,
Right.
because it's like anybody. If you don't know how to sew, how do you sew? If you don't know, if you don't know lighting, your photo, if you don't know how to cook, think how overwhelming making a meringue is. Do you know? I mean, I have friends, the worst one, people call me I get my glass of wine ready, and Thursday afternoon of Thanksgiving, I just sit on my phone because people are going to call me to tell me all the horrors of their turkey.
No, it's so true.
Turkey's the easiest in the world. Put a little butter on it, shove it in the hot oven. I mean, but people make the cooking a turkey the biggest thing in their whole.
Yeah, no, people get too stressed out about food, I think. I mean, it's just, it's just calm down. So we have like blown through here, and I've got some questions for you.
Please.
The first of which, though, let me tell people where they can go to sign up for your online classes.
Oh, okay. It's just happening right now. We have a Facebook. Well, we have a Facebook group called the Food Stylist Handbook, and we're going to post all the video information on that. They can always just reach me at D Vivaldo on Facebook, and then I can forward them anywhere they want to.
Perfect.
And on Instagram, it's the same thing. I think we have a new. You see, now, Virginia, I don't do any of this. Cindy does all this stuff for me. If it was up to me, I would have a string and 2 cans, and I'd say, hello, it's me. But Cindy does all this, but you can always find us on Instagram or Facebook under my name, and then we will have ads. It's going to be on Padua. I think that's what we're just putting up these now. We just edited the 3 of them, and we're going to it's a minor. It's not a lot of money. We're charging for the online courses, but we're trying to make it fun, Virginia, where they're all different. So if people already know that part of food selling, then they don't have to take that class. They can take these classes. So it's mostly, they're technique driven. They're also, and it's been really fun to do. I've been amazed how fun it's been to do.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see it. I definitely will sign up and take some.
I want people to have value.
So these are my little wrap up questions.
Please.
What is the last cookbook you read or cooked from that wasn't your own?
Oh, that's a great question. And I can tell you what it was. Well, I read the memoir by the wonderful, The Perpetual Church of Hunger by Lisa Donovan, who you had. I read it from. I love that book. I think I read it in an afternoon, and I'm turning away so I can look. The last cookbook I probably read was Tony Tipton's Jubilee.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That was Natalie's answer too. What a beautiful book. Tony is incredible. I had to get her on.
Beautifully photographed by a lovely woman, a photographer. I mean, talk about, she sees it. She has an eye. It's vibrant.
Yes. Okay, so I usually ask, like, what's your indispensable cooking tool? But maybe I'll ask you, what is your indispensable styling tool?
Oh, styling tool is several pairs of tweezers. You have to have tweezers.
You have to have tweezers.
Your fingers can't pick. If you pick up a green bean with your fingers, it knocks the other green bean or knocks the almond off. Right. Tweezers are like extensions of your fingers that are finer. Right,
exactly. Okay, of the 5 flavors, sour, salty, bitter, sweet, and savory, what's your go-to?
Salty.
Yeah. Salty is good. I love bitter. I really do love bitter.
Now, I like bitter too. When you say bitter, sometimes I like smoky too, but not fake smoke. I like when you get a bourbon that has a little bit of smoke underneath it. I like that. No, but salt is my first choice.
Salt is good. So, all right, now you've worked with a ton of famous chefs and cookbook authors and all of that. And we both know that they're not always as nice as they appear on camera. But who's one of your favorites? Like, who is really truly like someone that you enjoy watching? Like,
The loveliest one I've had 2 or 3 times when I worked on Ellen, and it was Eric Repair.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God. You know what?
He's nice.
Oh,
And
he's
handsome.
just lovely, tells you what he wanted, and Jamie Oliver was like this also, which I can say, came into the prep kitchen on the TV show, didn't try to take over, didn't say, oh, no, that's not how you do it. Nothing like that, just said, please show me what you're doing. And he was charming and lovely and handsome.
He's so handsome. And he's gotten even more handsome, I think, with his gray
Oh,
hair.
Virginia, come on. I'm old, not dead. The guy is gorgeous.
Well, hell, I mean, I think he's gorgeous and he's not my type for sure.
Exactly.
Right? No, that's so lovely. And it's so good to hear because, sometimes those egos just get, I mean, if anyone's going to be, it could be a dick about something, it could be him, right? He's good looking. He's a famous French chef. And he is really, really, really a nice
gentleman.
person.
A gentleman.
Gentleman, exactly. Okay, so my last question of all of your food memories, like what is one of your food memories that sort of stands out for you at any point in your life?
Oh, I think my mother was a very good cook, and she loved to buy, and they were always in the grocery store. They were 59 cents in those days. They were little pamphlet cookbooks, and they were international foods. And my father used to say, Jesus, Doris, can't we just have a steak and some potatoes? And my mother had one of those skillets, the electric skillet in the center of the table. And she made tacos and Japanese sukiyaki. And she made all these international dishes. But the first time I ever tasted tacos, my mother's tacos, which with cumin and something else in them, and those corn tortillas she'd made from scratch. I don't know where she found masa in San Rafael, California in the 50s, but she did. And and guacamole, but we had a neighbor that had a avocado tree. And I remember eating that thinking, this is one of the most delicious things I've ever eaten. And and we traveled a lot, even as children. My mother demanded a vacation, but we always ate foods from different places. So it was my mother that said, look at this, or let's eat this. But I can remember the first bite of that taco. I was probably only 7 years old.
That's so cool. I love to think about food memories, and sometimes you'll get a whiff of something and it immediately transports you 50 years or 30 years or 20 years or whatever. I mean, I just think it's so fascinating, and it just, that's so cool about your mom. That's really awesome.
Really, when I look back, I think she was trying to make being a housewife and a mother and staying at home with 3 kids. I mean, that was her choice. She loved it. But I think she was looking for a little adventure in her life every day.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. Well, y'all, thank you so much for joining us today. I want you to go to Instagram and look for the cover of this book. You're going to like me. You're going to like Denise. Denise, thank you so much for coming on today. You've made my day. I was feeling a little poopy about some things, and just getting to talk to you has just made my day. Thank you so much.
Oh, Virginia, it was my pleasure. Thank you, honey, and be well, and talk to you again.
You too, honey. Okay, bye-bye. Bye, y'all.